YouTube, what's going on? In today's video, I'm going to be covering the Blindfury and Regis Tripleshot build that I put together for you guys to use in conjunction with a melee weapon of your choosing for a hybrid build you can use across all of the Overland Testing Stations and endgame content in the game. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, let's go through the weapons and augments real quick for the weapons. We have two versions of the Blindfury. We have a marksman version and we have more of a Regis Tripleshot kind of version where we just spray and pray. For the augments, we have heavy caliber, we have the tactical enhancer over here, we have the spit dart amplifier for another damage increase, and this is for the marksman version. For the Tripleshot, we're going to be running amplifier, we're going to run heavy caliber, and we're going to run the Jabal spit dart expander. So this is going to give us a stupid amount of DPS with how fast the rate of fire goes up to, and we have 11 shots we can fire off now, so it's really good. The Regis Tripleshot kind of variant that you can use for the Blindfury follows the same setup. We have the Spit Dart Expander, we have a heavy caliber upgrade, and we have the amplifier again. So as you can see, the damage profile on the Tripleshot is a good chunk higher, both for the rate of fire and also for the base damage. Now, keep in mind there is some variation with the damages here, this being a little bit lower than the Tripleshot as far as the augments I have on there. So, but the Blindfury does quite a bit less damage, I would say, about 15 to 20% less DPS, if not more, just given its rate of fire and also the base damage on the weapon. So, but the nice upside of it, though, I will say, is it's more accurate, so you don't necessarily need to have a tractor field on with the Blindfury, whereas with the Tripleshot, it's definitely a requirement if you're going to be greater than about 10 to 15 meters away. So just keep that in mind. But let's jump over to the armor next. All right, guys, for the armor, we're going to have a couple different setups depending on which lab we're going to be doing. I'm going to be going over each different armor set that I use depending on the lab, so you guys can have an idea of how it synergizes with the weapons themselves. For the fire lab, we're going to have a full set of forge. It's going to be double fire reinforced, so we have both of the augments that give us fire resist. That's going to be our fire setup. For the old quarry, or any lab that you want to actually use this gun where there's going to be dart firing enemies. For the lockout rooms, for example, if you wanted to use this gun on the Rangers, you could use a full set of pincushion that's double reinforced with like penetrative reinforcement and dart mitigation. So this set works pretty well with that. Even at level 40, it'll block a couple shots. For the lightning lab, you can use a full set of bulwark. It's going to have double dart mitigation as well. So for the other labs, poison and darkness, we're going to be using a full set of forge, and it's going to have double blade mitigation on it, so it's going to help us survive the knee charge, some darknesses, knife attacks, stuff like that. It comes in handy. And then lastly, for radiation, we're going to have a tactical rad suit. It's going to have garment reinforcement on it and energy resist. So that's our setup for armor, guys. Let's dig right into the skill trees. For the skill trees, there's going to be some variations and creative liberties you can take depending on how you want to do the playstyle for the build. So if you're running in a duo, it's going to be a little bit different than running solo, for example. If you're running a certain lab, you're going to have a little bit of a different setup. So I'm going to go over the basics, and then I'm going to explain some choices you can make if you are trying to run a build a certain way. So of course, we're going to have our center of mass, we're going to have field maintenance, we're going to have energy capsule. This is going to be useful more for duos, but you can run it in solo as well if you're trying to do more burst damage. If you like staying in the air and be suspended, then you could run death from above and take on suspensor efficiency, for example. Personally, I'm more of a ground guy. I can do the air, but it's just not my favorite thing to do. So now, if you are going to be spamming Tripleshot, for example, you're going to be wanting to run a tractor field. You can optionally run explosive grenade as well with reflexive reload to not have to worry about reloading with battle hardened. So all that's pretty useful. But like I said, playstyle can vary depending on how you want to do it. And then you can also put points into marksman if you wanted to do more of a headshot build with the Blindfury. So it's possible to run that instead. I wouldn't recommend that if you are doing the Tripleshot. It's a little harder to land all 3 dots as a headshot. Usually you want to just use a tractor field. You can run exploit weakness as well if you're running the Tripleshot. Now, it's not always going to work. Sometimes the dot's going to be on the head, for example, and you have a tractor field up. So this is kind of like a hit or miss damage increase, but it's definitely an option if you want to run that. I would say the mandatory ones, you want to obviously put the passes for range damage, Garment Keeper. I put points in the headshot damage in the off chance that a tractor field's not up, so we still get some headshot damage to offset center of mass. So that's an option as well. Optionally, you can also use Solido Decoy if you're playing solo and you want to run the Fire Lab, for example, or another boss where you can just compel the boss and put the decoy right in front of them, and they'll attack the decoy for about 15 seconds. So it can be pretty helpful. Now, a couple things we want to do here. The usual, we want to have overcharge, we want to have rerouting. Optionally, you can put conservation of energy for the lockout rooms if you're going to run melee in those rooms. So, and then Bene Gesserit, we have our usual setup: Weirding Step, Manipulate Stability, Compel. The usual setup over here as well. Poison Tolerance for the Poison Lab. You don't need to put that on there if you're not running poison. Self-healing, Vitality, just the usual stuff, guys. Moving on over to Swordmaster, we've got, if you're going to be running hybrid, you can run Prescient Strike. You don't need to. That's just optional if you're ever going to switch to melee at some point. But I would say mandatory, you want to get either Knee Charge or Cripple Strike for the lockout rooms. You can put points into Optimize Hydration, Conditioning. I put it into Long Blade because we're going to be running the Replica Pulse Sword as our switch. And then for the melee switch, like I said, points in Confidence is helpful. You can run Reckless Lunge if you want for the lockout rooms and Poison, for example. Or if you're hybriding, switching between the rifle itself or melee, it's also a helpful thing to have. So, but let's get right into our abilities and techniques, guys, and go over that real quick. Alright, guys, let's go over the abilities and techniques real quick. For our lockout room setup, we're going to do Compel, Weirding Step, and Knee Charge. For our techniques, we can do Center of Mass, Manipulate Stability, and Suspensor Dash. Now, when we come to the boss, now it depends on which boss that is. We have a couple choices here. So I typically will run Compel, Energy Capsule, and a Tractor Field for the abilities. And for the boss itself, I'm going to be running Battle Hardened, Center of Mass, and we're going to swap out Manipulate and Stability for some of the encounters. If we don't have an add, typically, I'm going to swap on Exploit Weakness. Or if you have a Death from Above build, you can put on Death from Above and then keep on Center of Mass. But those are kind of the liberties you can take as far as the setup. Now, abilities, we can also swap on, instead of running Compel, we can put on Explosive Grenade. Or we can take off Energy Capsule and then put back on Compel. Or even use Weirding Step if we want to go towards an add and close out the add, for example, on like the fire boss. So that's kind of helpful. So you have a couple different liberties you can take. Now, if you're running the marksman build, as I mentioned, you're going to want to do, instead of Center of Mass, you're going to put on marksman. Now, you can either keep on Exploit Weakness, or you can put on Manipulate Instability for the lockout rooms, or sorry, not the lockout rooms, but the boss itself with the ads. So that's an option as well. And the setup, you can get rid of a tractor field if you're running marksman as well, and you can put Energy Capsule on there as well. So this is another setup you can do, which is pretty good. And if you want to run Decoy instead of Explosive Grenade, you could put on Decoy as well if you're running solo. That's another option. So there's a little bit of variation depending on the boss, guys. If you want more crowd control besides Compel, Shaker Wire can be pretty helpful too. If it's a melee enemy like Darkness or Poison, you can stagger the enemy and give yourself time to reset. So that's another option. Or use Cripple Strike if you want a hybrid. Cripple the enemy so you can kite the enemy a little bit better and start shooting. So it's another option. But that's it for the abilities and techniques, guys. I'll show you some gameplay footage and also kind of give my thoughts and feedback as far as the weapons themselves and how they perform against some of the other peers in the space right now. Alright, guys, so let's talk about strategies you can use for these bosses when you're playing against them with the Tripleshot or the Blindfury. So, unlike the Perforator or the Shell Burster, or a melee weapon for that matter, you're going to have to rely on keeping distance away from most of the enemies in the game, especially the bosses. The Blindfury, it's easier to not use a tractor field, so you don't have as many animation downtime seconds to actually start shooting at the boss, whereas a Tripleshot, you kind of have to have a whole setup. Compel comes in handy for that. Like if you ever have to reset, just let the poison dot, tick away for a little bit, and when that is gone, you can just compel the boss, reset them, and go about your business. But for the lightning boss in particular, you got a lot of mechanics going on at once. So one of the downsides of the triple shot versus the perforator is that you don't stagger the enemy on the lightning boss, for example, or the darkness or poison for that matter. When you don't stagger them, they have more time to do their animations. They can shoot at you, they can swing at you, and you do a little bit less DPS. Overall, I think that the triple shot and Blindfury can be a great support weapon. It doesn't necessarily need to be something that you main in a solo encounter every time, but it can be. I think it's a little bit harder to do that. The Blindfury, I feel like, is really meant for a longer distance kind of game that isn't really present right now in the Overland Testing Stations. It's meant to kind of be, in a canyon, picking off, NPCs, stuff like that. But unfortunately, there isn't a lot of that in the game at the high level. So we're kind of forced to find a home for these weapons and a purpose. I mean, you can use the Blindfury just like the triple shot in the build that I showed earlier, but I think that it's better for PvP, at least right now in the current meta, without the scope. And the poison dot's pretty good in PvP, but for PvE, it's still a little bit lacking, both in DPS and for overall utility versus its peers. Triple shot, I think, is right up there with the perforator if used correctly. If you are playing against a boss that's very aggressive, like the melee bosses, for example, though, it can be a little bit more challenging to get all your shots off. For the fire boss, it's great with a Death from Above build. And then if you're doing something like the lightning boss, it can be pretty good, but you're going to be taking a lot of shots with it versus the perforator because it doesn't have a stun. So you just have to be aware of that. But overall, I think it's a great gun. I think that Blindfury is, I give it a B minus, I would say, overall. Whereas I give the triple shot like an A minus. So they're both great guns, and I hope you guys enjoy using them. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. I appreciate all your support so far and my channel and helping it grow. It means a lot to me. I want to continue to put out videos like this and help you guys along the way in your Dune Awakening journeys. So I'd love to hear your comments below as far as what you want to see next, whether it be weapon guides or Overland Testing Stations or other content in the game. So let me know, and don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.